and welcome to my channel. My name is Zuli Rain and I create videos all about how to grow your blogging empire. Now, I wish it was as simple as this. You write great stuff and boom, you've got an audience. But there is a tool I want to talk to you about today, and it is called SEO, aka Search Engine Optimization. SEO means that your article is optimized to appear at the top of the Google or whatever search engine results. Google receives so much new content every single day, and what it's trying to do is show the very best article or the very best content to the person who's searching for it. There are a lot of things you can do with your article to make sure that Google understands what your article is about and who it's for and can deliver it to the right person. It takes very little effort and it's got huge rewards, which we'll be getting into. So this video is just going to take you through the very basics of SEO, the things that anybody can do no matter how much or how little expertise you have that can really help your articles rank no matter what platform you're using. Although I always recommend using Medium for reasons that we're going to get into, also because I love it. All right, let's dive in. I avoided SEO like the plague for the first 2 years I was writing because I feared it, frankly. But I started accidentally ranking for terms on Google. So people were Googling random things that I was writing about and my articles were coming up. I realized that Medium has a very strong domain authority. And what this means is that when articles are published on Medium, they tend to do better than if you publish them on, say, WordPress. Don't worry, we're gonna get into the whole thing. But what this means is that if I was doing it accidentally, with a very little amount of training, I could learn how to rank for things intentionally. So for example, I wrote this article, I published it on Medium. I published it on my blog, I cross-imported it onto Medium, and look, I have this banging little chunk at the top of Google for this search result because I know what I'm doing with this term. That's incredible. And if I can do it, this is the thing, if I can learn how to do this, then you can too. And all of that inspired me to start this Zuli's tutorial. The zootorial of how to use SEO, even and especially if you're a beginner. Okay, let's get started. The first step in SEO is knowing about your audience. So it doesn't actually have anything to do with tools or writing or anything. I want you to take a step back and think about who you're writing for. What problems are they solving? What feelings are they having? How can you use your words to help them? So that's where you're going to want to start, thinking about who you're writing for and where their struggles are, and that's going to help you start coming up with some keyword ideas. So as an example, I know my audience, I know what they want are some easy ways to write better, just as one example. And this is where the tools are going to start to come into play. So the first tool I want to show you is called Google's Keyword Planner. The Keyword Planner is not built for people like you and me. It's actually built for companies or brands who want to buy ad space at the top of Google searches. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to be useful for us. So this is where we want to start. The reason I recommend starting with Google versus any of the other tools is because you're going to get access to unlimited searches. It's totally free to use, so you're going to have a lot of information to start with. So as you are brainstorming about your audience and their problems, hopefully you started thinking about some keywords, some article ideas, you don't even have to call them keywords, that you could use. So for example, I want to go with writing tips. So I type in writing tips and I hit get results, and that's all you need to do. So this is going to give me a ton of information right off the bat. I'm getting plenty of new keyword ideas. Writing tips is pretty vague, but maybe I could write essay writing tips. Maybe I could do copywriting tips. Maybe I could do writing advice. Maybe I could do content writing tips for beginners. So these are all the ideas that you can have. And you can, copy these, put them anywhere you want to save them as potential article ideas. You're also going to want to look at the average monthly searches. So this shows me how often people are searching for this particular tool or this particular keyword. I take this with a pinch of salt. There's a huge difference between 1,000 and 10,000, and especially 10,000 and 100,000. So it's vague intentionally, right? Google has this information, but it doesn't want you to have it. And I personally have experienced, even when I do article ideas that are 10 to 100 searches per month, I often find that I get way more traffic than Google thinks I'm gonna get. So if you see something like abstract writing tips and you're like, I know I could write a kick-ass article about abstract writing tips, do it. Nobody's gonna stop you, and you might get 10 views, you might get a lot more. It also shows you the sort of trend, like are more people, like summary tips. Apparently in the last 3 months, there's been a huge surge of people searching for summary tips. Literature review tips also on a high. Narrative writing tips, less so. Again, this is like, take it with a pinch of salt, but it's useful to know. Now, what you don't care about here, competition, because this competition does not refer to you. This competition is for bidding on that keyword. So for example, when we write writing tips into Google, they are bidding on the ads that appear at the top of this page. You don't care about that. You're not gonna buy that space. You're gonna rank for it organically. Google it helps me both narrow and broaden my ideas for articles, for topics, for titles that I could be writing on, for, I'm gonna say it, keywords. That's all you have to do for your research. That's all you have to do for your keyword research. That would be enough to get started, but we're gonna go a couple steps further. Now that you have a couple of ideas, I want you to go to Ubersuggest. Ubersuggest is not built for advertisers. It's built for people like you and me, people who want to create articles that are gonna come to the top of Google's search organically. So tool number 2 is Ubersuggest. Like I said, Ubersuggest is built for people who want to experience better SEO, which is great for us because we don't care about buying ad space, right? Now you have the shortlist from the Google Keyword Planner. I recommend starting with Google because there are unlimited searches. Ubersuggest is not like that. You only have 3 free searches a day. You can choose to buy the plan. I personally haven't. I don't think I need to, but this gives me enough to sort of decide which are the 3 that I want to target using my daily searches. So let's go with content writing tips. Search. So this is giving me some really interesting things. Content writing SEO tips has a super low SEO difficulty. Content writing tips is a little harder. Tips on content writing would be a lot easier to rank for. So this is gonna give me some potential tweaks that I can do to make sure that I have a better chance of ranking for maybe a more targeted keyword. Like maybe content writing tips is pretty broad. Maybe I really want to target the people who want, who are beginners. So content writing tips for beginners would be a great keyword for me. 38 is a relatively low difficulty. The scale is from 0 to 100. So something like SEO friendly content writing tips apparently has a huge SEO difficulty. I would want to stay away from that. So I can use my 3 daily searches, and I recommend doing this as often as you remember because they don't accumulate. You only have 3 a day, so use them for free when you got them. This will help give you a ton more information on how hard it's going to be to rank for that search term. So now you have a lot of information from Google. You have a lot of SEO specific information from a tool called Ubersuggest. Now we're going to do some of our very own competitor research. And this is something I love doing. This is my favorite part of the process. Let's say I've decided on content writing tips for beginners. This is the tool, this is the keyword that I want to create my own article for. Now I have a third tool called Mozbar. It's a Chrome extension, it's free to use, and it's gonna give a ton of useful, interesting, valuable information. Ready? So I go to Google, I type content writing tips for beginners, I install and activate Mozbar, and then I scroll down and I have a look at page authority and domain authority. Remember how at the very start I was talking about how Medium has a high domain authority? This is so important when it comes to ranking on Google. When Google gets a new piece of content, it is trying to intake an unbelievable amount of information as it decides where to rank stuff. And one of the shortcuts it uses is deciding how trustworthy that domain is. So a domain is something like medium.com, thenewyorktimes.com, basically like a home website. Page authority, so that's the page. So if there was a specific article on the New York Times, the domain would be newyorktimes.com, the page would be newyorktimes.com/article title. Stuff with higher domain authorities and higher page authorities are way more likely to rank more highly in Google searches. And what this means is you can start picking out targets to snipe. That sounds so violent. Targets to dethrone. That still sounds violent. Targets to take, okay, I'm just gonna stop. I can't think of a non-violent way to say it. Targets to replace in a non-violent way. Okay, so with the Mozbar installed, there are 3 specific things I'm looking for while I decide who to take out. First, page authority and domain authority. Anything under 30 is a solid bet. Anything under 50, you have a pretty good chance of taking. So something like this, web content writing tips for beginners and pros. low domain authority, very low page authority. Only 3 people are linking to this particular page. I have a pretty good chance if I write an article that I could replace that one on the front page of Google. Very cool. Now look at this one. Again, pretty low, only 30s here. Here's a 50. This one's very low, 20 and 20. So you're already looking at this and you're already like, okay, I know Medium has a very high domain authority. Medium's domain authority is 95. So already if you publish something on Medium, Google's gonna look at it and be like, yeah, okay, I respect this. I bet this is a really valuable source. So very, very good to publish this kind of stuff on Medium because you're automatically going to outrank every single domain authority on this page for this particular keyword. The second thing you're gonna look at is date. And you don't need the Moz toolbar for this. You're just gonna do this as you search on Google. Google likes recent stuff. The newer, the better. Older stuff is going to be dethroned. So something I wrote an article about toxic friends that was on the front page of Google for a while. It's no longer there because I wrote it like a year ago and people have written more recent stuff since. So that's great because, well, it's great for us because we're writing something today. We're automatically gonna have that recency bonus. But I want you to scroll through these and see which ones are recent and which ones are older. So this one is from almost 4 years ago. That's wild. This one's almost a year old. This one's 6 months old. This one doesn't say. This one's 6 months old. This one's almost 2 years old. So there's some old stuff on here. And in fact, I can see why this one has performed as well as it has, despite having a low PA and DA, because it's freaking recent. This was published a month ago, two months ago. So you stand a pretty good chance of ranking for, or I stand a pretty good chance of ranking for this keyword. And finally, the third thing is quality. Remember, at the end of the day, Google is not trying to pick the best optimized article to show people. It's trying to show people the best article, full stop. So when I look at these, I'm gonna have a look at these articles and see if I can do something better than this. So look, this is a long article. It's got 20 tips. It's already got this nicely broken up in do's and don'ts. It's got a great introduction. It's got but they do get shorter as they go on, and no conclusion. So if I wanted to dethrone this particular article, I would take note of the strengths and weaknesses of this article. 7 minutes long, I'll write one that's longer. 20 tips, I'll do 21. No conclusion, you can bet I've got one. I'm gonna make sure that each of my tips is fully ironed out. I'm gonna make sure that I've got a table of contents in so my readers can navigate it. There are lots of ways to make an article better. No shade to the Content Snare team. Probably a great article, but I know that I can do better and I know you can too. So that's pretty much all the SEO research that you need to do up to this stage. You've got your keyword ideas, you've thought about what audience problems you're solving, you have taken it upon yourself to know who you're gonna target to take off that front page of Google and who you're gonna replace. Now we're gonna go on to my favorite virtual place in the world, medium.com. Now, everything I've said up until this point is super relevant. If you're writing your own blog, this is still really good information to know. But I want you to start thinking of Medium as a little shortcut, a little vehicle. Because Medium has that super high domain authority, something you publish on Medium is going to do better than something you publish on your own WordPress. I'll give you an example. Medium, let's talk about, I don't know, writing article. So Medium writing. You can see super high domain authority of 95. And we scroll down, my own article about Medium, my domain authority is 22. Super low, not that great. So, you know, Medium's domain is much more powerful than mine. No shade on my little Squarespace blog, I just know that Medium does better, and that's why I publish a lot of my stuff on Medium. The other things I really like about Medium is that you don't have to faff around with plugins or themes. You can literally just start writing and, as I said, rank accidentally for keywords without even knowing what you're doing. That's fantastic. And the other reason is that currently there are such things on Medium called publications. Publications are themed collections of stories run by regular people like you and me. Anybody can start a publication and anybody can follow a publication. So this means that when I started my my brand new account about a month ago to test out what it was like for beginners on Medium, my own stories that I self-published on that profile got like 3 or 4 views. However, when I used a publication, even as a beginner, even with like 0 followers, I was able to get hundreds and in one case over 1,000 views on my story. That is fantastic. A, as a beginner, so rewarding to see that. And B, the more views you get within Medium, the more Google is going to be like, oh, okay, this is a reputable article. Let's rank it higher. That's awesome. So now we're gonna get into, in my opinion, the best part of the actual SEO process. Writing. You're gonna write that article. You've got your keyword, you know what audience problems you're solving, you know why you're posting it on Medium. You want to now write the article. The article should be at least 1,000 words long. Remember, Google is looking for the best article, the best quality. And in its opinion, longer is almost always better. So 1,000 words minimum. Have a look at your competition. You'll notice that most of them are even longer, 1,500 words, in some cases 2,000 words. There's also a little bit of SEO magic that you can apply here. So remember your keyword, that was the thing you picked out all the way at the step 1. So for example, content writing tips. You want to make sure that that keyword appears in a couple of key places. Keyword places. First of all, the density. Your keyword should appear about 1% of the time, so a density of 1%. This means if your article is 1,000 words long, you want to make sure that your keyword appears at least 10 times. Not a lot more than that, not a lot less, but about like if you control F it and it appears 1% of the time, that's the rough thing that you're aiming for. You should also make sure that your keyword is bolded, it's in italics, it's been put in quote marks, and that it's in headers whenever you can. So when you write your article and you section it out, make sure it's in some of those section headers. Again, this is just telling Google what your article is about, what the focus of your article is, and it helps Google understand what keywords, what search terms to rank it for. Make sure it's in the first 100 characters of your article, and I would recommend putting it in your conclusion as well. Again, just helping Google out. I want you to also remember to keep it organic. It's tempting to think of this as like just an objective thing. The more keywords you get in, then the more high you're gonna rank on Google. But Google's algorithm gets better every single day. And this is great news for you and me as writers, because it means that the better an article we write, no matter how much or how little we know about SEO, the better it's gonna perform on Google. And it means that people who, spend their whole lives trying to optimize around SEO, they're going to do worse and worse, because what Google's looking for is not SEO perfect articles, it's looking for good articles to serve to its searchers. That's great news for us. And it also means that you can, with just a little bit of twiddling and tweaking, we can rank. Another Chrome plugin, also free. It's called Keywords Everywhere. And this is going to give us some great additional ways to include keywords in our article. And it's going to potentially give us some section ideas to include in the article. So let's go to content writing tips on Google again. Content writing tips we'll just go with the original, content writing tips. Keywords Everywhere is going to show up on the right-hand side of your screen, and it's going to give you some super interesting ideas. So it gives you related keywords. So these are keywords that are similar to the one that you just typed in. It's going to give you people also search for. So if somebody's typing in content writing tips, they're probably also searching for what is content writing. And it's also going to give you long tail keywords. Short tail keyword would be like shoe. A long tail keyword would be like shoe for cocktail party, if that makes sense. The longer the keyword, the fewer people are likely searching for it, but also the easier it's going to be for you to rank for it. You can add those into your article. You can replace a couple instances of your keyword where it makes sense. You can use that to provide additional information. So for example, when I wrote an article about content writing tips, I did not think that people would need to know what content writing is. But look, people also search for what is content writing. So that meant that I wanted to include a header that included what is content writing to address the needs of my viewers. All right, final touches. Medium also has a couple SEO tools that it keeps a little bit hidden, which is why I'm excited to reveal them to you today. So let's go to medium.com and I will show you exactly where they're lurking. So if you go to just any story draft, how to write better titles, just, as this random example that I've chosen, you're gonna go to the top 3 dots at the top of your screen and you're gonna click More Settings. Here you're gonna scroll down a little bit until you hit SEO settings. And this is your SEO title. Now the reason this is important is because an SEO title, something that is friendly to Google's engine when it's trying to pick out the best content, is not necessarily the same as a good clickable title. So as an example, maybe you want to rank for cat toys for bored cats. And you might write in your fun title, your title that's gonna get people to click, these 16 cat toys will save your cat from ever being bored again. So that's not an ideal SEO title because you haven't really got a great keyword in there. But you can keep that, get people to click on your article, and the SEO title, which is what Google will read, will instead have something like the 16 cat toys for bored cats. So cat toys for bored cats is right there. It's going to be super easy for Google to parse and know what your article is about. It's a little boring, but that's fine because readers aren't going to see this, only Google is. You're also going to want a description. So again, make sure that your keyword is showing up in the description. These cat toys for bored cats will save your house from destruction! Exclamation point. Cat toys for bored cats, again, showing up right there in the description. That's really important. A lot of SEO gurus recommend including the keyword in alt text. And what this means is on Google, you click on alt text, or in Medium, you click on alt text and you say cat toys for bored cats. I don't recommend doing this. I think this is a really douchey move because people who have visual impairments or who can't load pictures on their internet or whatever, they are using alt text to know what that picture is. And for you to plumb that for SEO juice is kind of a crappy thing to do. So I would not recommend doing that no matter what any SEO guru tells you. And also, I don't know how effective it is. So even if you do sell your soul for a little bit of extra SEO juice, I don't think it's going to be super effective. It's better just to focus on writing a good article. And the final extension I'm going to recommend that you check in with downloading is called Table of Contents, Medium Table of Contents. I use it pretty much for almost every single article I write. Where is it? Table of Contents, Medium. It's another free Chrome extension. And what it means is that it's going to let you pop in a table of contents. I like to put this in a code chunk because that makes it easy to visually distinguish. And when the story is published, readers will be able to click on these to navigate your article. Google also really likes it because it can pull from that to also know what your story is about. So those are the final touches. That's how you SEOify your article, and just with a few very little things, you can turn an article that was already great into something that's also a little bit more SEO friendly. The last thing I want to touch on is your brand. So think about why you want to rank for SEO. Why do you want to show up on the front page of Google? What's the point? If you're only getting, unless all of your income only comes from ads that you have on your page, getting views is not going to be great. When I ranked on Google for Toxic Friends, that did absolutely nothing for me because most of the people clicking on it were not Medium members, so I didn't get any income that way. Toxic Friends have nothing to do with my brand as a creator, so it didn't really make sense for readers to like subscribe to my newsletter or anything like that because they were totally separate topics. So have a real think about how showing up more on Google searches is going to help you. It doesn't matter if you reach 10,000 readers if none of them actually engage with you as a person, with you as a creator. Conversely, if you only hit 10 readers, but all 10 of those readers are super interested in what you do and what you're going to potentially give them, that's a win no matter how much, no matter if it's only 10 people or even only one. So make sure that your reasons for SEO, for wanting to optimize, are crystal clear to you, and make sure that you write articles that are furthering your brand. It does no good to rank on SEO for unrelated keywords, no matter how high you rank on the search on the Google pages. Do you want to get more newsletter subscribers? Do you want to get purchases? Do you want to get more followers? What do you want to do? Make sure that your article is tailored to that end goal as well, not just ranking on SEO. And finally, rinse and repeat. This was a tutorial, a zootorial, if you will, for beginners. There's so much more that you can do with SEO, but this is enough to get you started. The more articles you try to write, the more articles you go to the effort of doing this little bit of extra legwork for, the more you'll learn about what articles are best for you specifically to rank on SEO, which articles are the most fun, which ones are worth doing this little bit of legwork for, and which ones aren't. For some articles that I write, it's just not worth doing all this extra work because it doesn't have anything to do with my ultimate brand, and I just don't have to, I don't want to, and that's okay. If you only do this for a couple of articles that are super tailored to what you want to accomplish, that's totally fine. And the more articles you write to this process, the more familiar you'll get with that understanding of which ones are worth the work and which ones aren't. And it's also worth pointing out that Google changes very frequently. The very, very best SEO advice I can give you is to write a great article. Everything else is eventually, one day, potentially going to become obsolete as Google's engine becomes smarter and smarter at delivering the best content to the right viewer at the right time. And that's all any writer can hope for, because that means the better we write, the better we perform. I wanted to do this tutorial because I was afraid of SEO for so long, but as soon as I embraced it, I started reaping the rewards instantly. I'm not an expert by any means, but the little I know and everything I've told you here is everything you need to know to start ranking on SEO immediately. You can do it with your existing articles, just tweak them a little bit. You can write brand new articles following this process. It takes very little work. The more you do it, the faster you get at it, and you can start getting real results as soon as you like, really. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments what topics you want to know more about. I answer every single one of my comments. And yeah, I wish you all the very best December as we head into 2022. Until we speak again, happy writing. Bye, everyone.